because from the flight to Egypt, Saint Joseph, with courage, brought the family back to the family of Nazareth, the Holy Family of Nazareth. That is where take up what Father Tom was saying, the nurturing part, where Saint Joseph took the responsibility for the nurturing of the young child. At that time, coming back from Egypt, Jesus was still a young child. So Saint Luke actually recorded in the Gospel that it was in the Holy Family of Nazareth that Jesus increased in wisdom and in stature. That is where the growing part comes in. And Saint Joseph as guardian, and not guardian and the earthly father of Jesus, who Jesus, we have to remind ourselves, he is a son of God, and yet so he takes this responsibility, this significant role in the progress of Jesus from childhood to maturity in a very, very serious way. Saint Joseph became this guardian of Jesus. And when I reflected on this, I begin to see how during this time, how Saint Joseph has really taken great care to impart knowledge and teachings to the child from childhood to a mature age. Must have taught him, for instance, any father or mother would do to teach him how to speak, how to, in the case of Joseph, taught Jesus to study the scriptures and to worship, how to really worship, because so it is something that has been taken place during this time. Just to help those who in bahasa, bagi saya nampak Santo Lukas sudah tertulis dalam Injil, mengatakan dalam keluarga suci lah ni Yesus bertambah bijaksana dan bertubuh tinggi, maturity, grow to maturity. Dan Santo Joseph dia jadi wali, dan anyanya mestilah memainkan peranan yang penting dalam kemajuan Yesus dari kecil, waktu dia Yesus kecil hingga dia dewasa. Dan setelah merenung, saya pun boleh melihat banyak cara yang dilakukan oleh Saint Joseph dalam pendidik Yesus dari kecil hingga dewasa. Sebagai seorang ayah dan dalam keluarga kudus, dialah yang mengajar Kristus, mengajar Yesus sebagai bercakap, membaca dan mempelajari kitab suci, dan juga menyembah, how to worship God, So it was Saint Joseph who has gone through this with Jesus to help him even how to worship. Because for Jewish families, parents play a very special part in taking great care in passing the faith to the young ones, transmitting of the faith of Jesus, transmitting of faith to Jesus, like teaching him the Torah, the law of Moses, and also must have been the central duty and mission of Joseph as a father and as a guardian. And we have to, it's mentioned already, but it's important to take note that he did all this with gentleness and by giving good examples, not by just telling him what to do, but by way of his own example. Bagi keluarga Yahudi, ibu bapa memberi perhatian khusus yang dalam menyampaikan kepercayaan mereka kepada anak muda dan menyebarkan iman kepada Yesus seperti mengajarnya Taurat atau hukum Musa menjadi tugas utama dan misi Santo Joseph sebagai orang ayah dan penjaga, as a guardian and as a father. Dialah melakukan dengan lemah lembut dan dengan memberi teladan yang baik, giving good examples to Jesus. Saint Joseph teaches by showing good examples. Dan dalam Santo Lukas ada mencatat sebagai Joseph dan Bonda Maria mendapati Yesus pada usia 12 tahun, duduk di antara para guru di bait suci. You know, Jesus and Joseph had discovered during a visit to Jerusalem. They found Jesus, to their surprise, was talking to some teachers. At the age of 12, you know, he was already able to have a very serious dialogue or conversation with the teachers. You know, teachers in the Temple of Jerusalem. This had surprised parents. So the thing they heard was that those who were listening to Jesus, they were actually astounded, according to St. Luke here recorded in the Gospel, saying that the teachers who listened to Jesus, they were actually astounded by the intelligence and the replies that he gave, even at the age of 12. Here, I like to give some background because for the Jewish families, under the Jewish law, actually, a boy reaches age of maturity only at the age of 13, and Jesus was only at the age of 12. And it's only at the age of 13, a Jewish boy becomes more or less like responsible for his actions. Before that age, the responsibility of that child to follow the Jewish law and also the traditions actually lies with the parents, not the child yet. So only after the age of 12, when boys are more or less like privileged to bear the responsibility of the Jewish ritual law, tradition, and ethics, and so forth. So Jesus, at the age of 12 years, was actually considered premature, you know, premature to talk to the teachers at the temple. I think we're talking about how the nurturing of Saint Joseph for Jesus. We can see that you know, they were talking of dreams, but I have a lot of as a journalist, I have a lot of imagination, and I can imagine that, you know, as a young boy, Jesus would always go around and see Saint Joseph, you know, as a carpenter doing his work. And I think sometimes St. Joseph must have made some mistakes, some mistakes in making a chair or a table or something. And he must have observed. St. Joseph learned by learning and from the father by observing how St. Joseph made changes, how he dealt with disappointments, how he dealt with mistakes that he had made with his woodwork and so forth, and how he patiently, how the child Jesus, as he grew up to maturity, has seen the father Joseph, Saint Joseph, how he made corrections and adjustments. This is done with patience, with calmness. This is something which is not really written, so we can imagine how, as he was growing up, because so little is written, just suddenly he says he grew to maturity from the age after coming back from Egypt, and then so in between there's so much because Saint Joseph as a carpenter, Jesus must have seen how he conducted his with his work diligently and without grumbling. Uh, Unlike us lah, we marah-marah, grumble, murmur. No, Saint Joseph, no. He gave the good by way of good example to Jesus, and he was able to observe the way his father behaved. So even the way Saint Joseph buying or selling, when someone customer, for instance, come and see a chair, although in the eyes of Saint Joseph, the carpenter, he must have made a perfect chair or table or bench, but when a customer were to grumble about it and say, I want this change, I want that change, Saint Joseph would very quietly would just make the changes. Okay, you come back later, give me time, I'll get it done within a week. He make all the changes. And so these are the things that Jesus, as a growing to maturity, must have observed in Joseph, the father, the carpenter. In fact, Jesus has often been referred to as a carpenter himself, because he must have learned the trade from the father. Inilah dialah Yesus yang ini melakukan dalam ni this Saint Father, this Saint Joseph lah has learned much from Saint Joseph lah, as is written here.